All right, here we go. We've got the Nord Stage 3, and I'm calling this the Nord of the Lord tutorial series because we're using this for worship at our church. It's kind of for Chapel Hill Church. A lot of the song-specific programs are for our repertoire, but I hope that anybody viewing this video could get a lot out of it. This will be the first in a series of videos teaching you kind of the ins and outs of how to get around this keyboard. I did a quick start video, and that would actually be the best one for you. If you're like scheduled to play this thing this Sunday and you need to get up and running, go to my quick start video and start there. But this part one video will be kind of the basics of how to navigate. And so with the setup, you want to make sure, in the back here, there's so many options, but we'll keep it simple. There's your power cord, there's your on-off button, and then sustain pedal, you plug in there. And then it's got all these options for headphones, monitor, and outputs. So if you're gonna go through a sound system, just do channel 1. Channel 2 should work as well, but we want to kind of reserve that in case we go with a stereo situation. So just go channel out with a quarter-inch instrument cable, usually into a DI box, and then into the snake on stage. Headphones is really handy, and also this monitor in is really handy. What that allows you to do is hook up your laptop with an 1/8 inch cable and go into that, and then whatever music you play from your laptop, like if you want to play an MP3 or from your phone, if you want to go from your phone into the monitor in, you will hear the music through the Nord Stage 3. So you can play the recording of the track through the monitor while you put on headphones or play the Nord and play along with it. So that's the setup in the back. And then now in the front, when you first turn it on, make sure that you're not in live mode. So if you see the live mode button lit, take it off. And now we're in program mode. Here's the program dial. Go all the way, keep going counterclockwise to the beginning, and I've got all these programs saved. The first bank A, we've got some good options there for worship music, and then starting A24 are all the programs that come stock with the Nord, and there are a bunch of them. And I don't use a whole lot of these. You can explore these if you want. Pure pipes. A bright EQ sounds like a piano. Anyway, there are tons of them, but go all the way to, well, let's see, you will find that starting with M14. Now we have all the worship songs in our repertoire in alphabetical order. If you go a little further, then we have some of our Christmas carol arrangements. But what I want you to do is navigate to an empty slot. So N52 is empty, and go ahead and, as you experiment, save to an empty spot. So to give it a name, you're going to hold down the Shift button and then Store. That makes it a Store As. And then now you can choose the ABC and give it a name. So we're going to do, let's just call it Test. TE S T, and then maybe put your initials. So I'm Paul Ward, so I'll go PW. So test my initials, PW, and then hit store again, and hit store one more time. And now N52 is recorded as test PW. And if you go away from that and then come back to it, we have the name stored right there in N52. Okay, now the way that the keyboard is laid out is you have basically 6 keyboards in one. And the reason is there are 3 engines, and you can turn on and off each engine independently, and you have a panel A and panel B. Think of them like as 2 different keyboards. Like keyboard A, you can do a whole setup, and then switch to B, and you have a whole nother setup. You can go back and forth, or you can do them both at the same time. We're just going to start with panel A, and we're going to turn on the organ engine. So that button to turn it on is right here beneath its own independent volume knob. So turn that on, and it starts with a Hammond B3 as the first thing that comes up. These digital drawbars give you the different overtones. So if you change that, you get more mellow sounding, but if you mix the overtones back in, a lot brighter, okay? You have all these different types of organs that you can select: a Vox, Farfisa, Pipe 1, and Pipe 2. I usually use the Hammond B3. I just love the Hammond B3. And again, you have a separate volume control. So this is the dial for the volume of the organ. This is your master volume. Probably start with that right at 12 o'clock. So the master volume affects all 3 engines, and then this volume affects only the organ. There it's really quiet, and we can turn it all the way up. Okay, some other things you'd want to know is you can do an octave shift up or down. So if it's there and I hit octave up, now it jumps up the octave. I'll go back. Okay, so that's the basics of the organ engine. I almost always like to turn on the, what do you call it? The whirly speaker, like the Leslie speaker effect on organ. And now you've got that Leslie speaker effect. You can do stop or fast. Sounds really good. Okay, and again, you can turn this engine on or off. Oh, one last thing. These 4 LED lights. The keyboard is separated into 4 different zones. If you want to split it 3 different ways. And right now, this indicates that the organ is in all 4 zones. So all the way from the bottom to the top. We'll come back to that later. So we're going to turn off the organ engine. Come on over here to the piano engine and turn it on. And again, it has its own volume control here. And oh, by the way, as you go along, if you want to save to your test, just hit the store button twice. Hit store once, it asks you if you want to store that, and hit it again. And now you've saved whatever changes you've made will now save to it. So we're turning on the piano engine. And over here we have the different piano types. And so we'll start with the grand. And the very first grand, Piano Engine is here. I jumped over to the Synth Engine. Piano Engine is in the middle. Here it is, Piano Engine. So it starts with the grand pianos, with the Royal Grand. And then you can cycle through with this list knob. Grand Imperial, Grand Lady, Italian, Velvet, really smooth sounding, Silver Grand, so on and so forth. Then you can cycle through these. I like to use upright pianos sometimes at the beginning of songs when we want to start a little bit softer. You have electric pianos. You have clav, digital pianos. Again, you can go through the list on each category, and miscellaneous. Okay, so again, it's showing right now that the piano is in all 4 zones, and here's the volume, independent volume control for the piano. You also have the option of doing soft, mid, or a bright. I found with our sound system here at Chapel Hill, we want to err on the side of making it bright, but you can work with the sound engineer on that. Okay, we're going to turn off the Piano Engine. Now, come over here to the Synth Engine. Sorry, I jumped ahead before. Turn that on, and this is a very, very robust synthesizer, and we're just going to barely get to the basics here, and I'll go more in depth in a future video. But the very first thing that comes up is a sine wave. Sounds like a video game. Really, to get you going, you want to just check out these synth presets and play with those. And like the very first one, soft pad, works for a lot of things. Nice sounding synth pad. And so I would just use the synth presets for now, just to kind of get you going. And usually it's one of the first 4 that I'll use. The warm pad. Let's say you like what you've done, you can store that. Okay. And then it's probably good to let you know how to grab samples. So if there's a certain kind of sound that you want to grab a sample of, scroll through this until you get to where the 2 lights show that you're in sample mode. And then you're going to turn the oscillator 1 waveform dial until you find straight, like chamber strings. A lot of different options for sampling. Got all the strings. Later on, we have vibraphone, bells. Sometimes I use glockenspiel too. So lots of options there. But yeah, use the synth preset for most of what you'll need to do. Now, if all 3 engines are on, so we'll turn the organ engine back on, the piano engine, and the synth engine is on. And if they're in all 4 zones, that means they will layer on top of each other. So listen to this. That is a B3 organ, a grand piano, and a synth all going at the same time. Then if I turn one off at a time, I'll turn the organ off, you'll just hear the piano and the synth. If I turn the piano off, now you'll just hear the synth. So you see how that works? As you turn on and off the 3 different engines, they by default layer on top of each other unless you tell them to split. Now, not only do we have all three engines on panel A, but we can do the same thing on panel B. We can go to panel B, turn on the organ, turn on, and we'll pick a different organ, like, how about pipe organ? And then piano, we can pick something different, just to distinguish it, like an electric. And then we'll turn on the synth engine, and just go ahead here, punchy synco bass. Okay, so again, we're in panel B, all three engines are on, so we're hearing all three engines at the same time on top of each other. And we can turn them off one by one. And we turned off the organ. Now we're going to turn off the electric piano. And we're left with the synth. It gets really crazy when you engage both panel A and panel B. So press them both down. The one that's blinking is the one that shows up here. So if I hit B, they're both still engaged, but now B is going to show up on the LED. So now A is showing up on the LED, but both panel A and B are engaged. That means if on panel A, I turn on the organ, I turn on the piano, and I've got the synth engine on. And panel B, if I do the same, I turn on the pipe organ that I had, the electric piano, and the synth engine. Now, all 6 engines, 3 engines from each panel, will all play on top of each other at the same time. Get this huge sound. If you want to go back to toggling back and forth between panel A and panel B, then hold these 2 buttons down again. And now you've got panel B, and then back to panel A. Okay. Last but not least, just so you really understand how these basically 6 engines work together, I mentioned the zones. If you do a split, we'll just do one split here. I'll make it easy. Hold down the shift button, hit split. Navigate to the note where you want split, so that middle split on the F4, and you'll see a LED light, and there are quite a bit of these LED lights on here, but this LED light shows you where you did the split. Navigate over to the F4, and then use the program knob to change the split. So now it's just jumped up, and then back down. Okay. By doing the split, now you can tell these engines what side of the split, like what zone you want them in. And so hold down the shift button. Let's say we want the synth up in the top. Hit it once, hit it twice. That means that it's in the upper half of the split. Let's say we want the piano and organ on the left half. Hold down shift, do your zone until it's the left or bottom half. Same thing with organ. Shift, hold down shift, hit the zone. And so now we have just the synth. The synth is above the split. The organ and the piano are below the split. And again, in real time, you can turn on and off. So if I turn off the piano, now it's just going to be organ below the split. If I turn that off, there's nothing, because the synth is to the right of the split, but not below, and I've turned off the other 2 engines. See how that works? You can do the same for panel B. Then you can change where these show up in the splits. Hold down shift, the zone button, and And so it'll put it, and the organ's still in all four. So the organ will be right now from the bottom all the way to the top. Not only that, but you can press both A and B. And now you've got 6 different engines, either to the left or the right of the split, or in all 4 zones. So it's a very robust way of splitting and layering these keyboards. I think that'll be it for now. Remember to store your test by hitting the Store As button twice. And so now you've saved that. And so if you turn the keyboard off and back on, and you went to your, for me it's N52, it'll save all your changes. And so that's a good way to experiment on your own. You won't mess up any other programs that way. Just make your own test program. And stay tuned for part 2.